Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Middle Game Live. We're doing a 9 a.m. Central Time, which feels like 10 a.m. Because of the time change. But we're here with a great friend of mine and a very good buddy, known forever. Smylie Kaufman's going to join us here in about 3 minutes. Got him in the green room ready to go. But before then, Bash, how we doing?
Doing outstanding. It's really good to be here today.
Did you go to Ole Miss this weekend to watch the game?
Well, we went up. We were supposed to. We went up Friday night. And Molly got sick, started throwing up everywhere. So we turned around and came home Saturday morning.
Oh, okay.
So,
the joy of kids. The joy of kids.
Yeah. So we're.
How's she feeling now?
Oh, she was completely fine. It's just bad parenting. We had her clogged up in her stomach. So,
okay.
Just bad parenting.
I get it. Well, so it was a good victory for Ole Miss. Great victory for Alabama. I was on the sidelines. I was down there.
Oh, were you?
I know I'm making Smylie a little sick to his stomach talking about it. So let's bring up Smylie. Let's bring Smylie into the bullpen here, or whatever we're going to call it. And Smylie Kaufman, welcome. And we were just reminiscing about the LSU Alabama football game a little bit. You doing okay today?
Oh man, I'm okay. Just okay. It was, kind of exactly how I thought it was going to go. Just kind of brutal, just knowing we can't get a stop. But offense, I mean, they delivered for the most part. But never fun losing Alabama, Brett.
No. So I get the questions that I get every week during this year is like, who you for? And I always give the same answer, and I mean it. When you work with people, it always precedes uniform. And knowing the dudes I work with and knowing the dudes that did really well this past weekend, and I was on the sidelines for the game and all the other stuff. And it was just, you could hear the LSU fight song, and it does make you twinge a little bit. I walked over to the other side and talked to some of the LSU guys. But it was a great game, and I'm very happy. I'm very happy today. Alabama won. And now I hope LSU plays great the rest of the year. I hope they don't lose another game.
It hurts me to hear that. It just hurts me.
I will say, too, how about the non-targeting call on the helmet to the chin?
I can't comment on it because I didn't see it live, and they didn't show the replay in the stadium. So
I mean, there's clips everywhere.
Which was a great idea for them not to show it in the stadium. But I mean, I don't know. It looked like targeting to me. It just sucked that Daniels was knocked out for the rest of the game. We still were not going to win the game, being down 14 points. But still, just wanted to see him finish the game out. He definitely had a couple more touchdowns in him to at least keep it a little closer. But definitely not. I understand everybody's armchair quarterback Monday morning review of like, oh, it's definitely not targeting because of X, Y, and Z. It's like, I don't know. They normally call that targeting in every game that I've ever watched. Look, it's like, why for now?
They call targeting when the running back lowers his head and the DB has to put his head down at the knees, and it looks like, I mean, the targeting rule, I understand the spirit of it. It's a terrible, terrible rule. It is so inconsistently enforced. It is, if you look at the technique of what the call that you're talking about is, it was brilliant technique where he put the head right in the chest. That's what they teach. If the head moves at all, so it's not targeting if it's here, it's targeting if it's here, just based on where the head hits the top of the thing, right? So I think there has to be some different level. I agree with you. LSU was not going to come back and win that game. Especially with the way Alabama was moving the ball and their defense was getting stronger and stronger. They still got a 15-yard penalty out of it.
Yeah, they definitely did. But I'm not sitting here complaining that we should have won the game. It's just I thought 15 should have been on the sideline with 5. That's all I thought.
I agree. It's a violent game. Let's talk about competition here for a minute. And one of the reasons why I was so excited to get you on is that one is, I've known you since you were in high school and been around you for a long time and know the way that you think and the way that you do things. But, I love your work in media now because you're so open, you talk openly. And I think it's really cool to talk about competitive stress, being in the heat of the moment. Talk about, when you're out there behind the mic, when you were out there inside the ropes playing, talk about what that burden of competitive stress is in that moment.
Well, I've experienced both. And when things are going well, there's nothing better than those competitive juices. It's what you train for. You know you can do it. And for me, I had experience struggle in golf in high school and in college with really just ball striking, just seeing some big misses and not really knowing how to handle those tough thoughts that come into my mind about, oh, you've done this because, and I think this is a strength and weakness for me. I have a really good memory, and sometimes that's not good for golf because you remember all the bad sometimes. But when things were really good, I was really good about remembering all the things that were good, and I think my subconscious just constantly was overworked a little bit
Mm.
when things were not well, and but at the same time, when it's good, I just remember when I was playing well, I would have dreams about making the winning putt, and
Hmm.
then when things were not going good, I would have dreams about just the nightmare shots that I was hitting on the golf course. So it's funny how the mind works in this game because it plays tricks on you at times, but the weird thing about it is it would only take like a snap of the finger with one feel, and suddenly my confidence would come back with something.
Hmm.
And that's the frustrating thing about this mental game in the game of golf for me is that I've had periods where things were going so well and I'm doing everything right. I'm working this process. And then there's other times where you're working just as hard and you have a plan, but I just kept on getting in my own way and I couldn't understand why at times.
You have one of the brains that a lot of guys have, which is well intentioned, smart, um, probably a little too much horsepower up there. Okay, no, and I mean that out of respect. I mean, sometimes if you're dumb, you do really well. Okay, but for those of us and athletes out there who are very analytical, who think a lot, who put themselves into a lot of situations, who are going to read a lot of information in a short amount of time, it can be really challenging to know what the right feel is. And so when you find that feel, you find that situation that all of a sudden opens you up. When you don't have it, I'm assuming you're out there trying to search for it more than anything else,
Oh
right?
yeah, you're all constantly searching for a feel, and it's I guess my college coach Chuck Winstead at LSU at the time. He always told me in school, when the quarterback gets the play call in and and things start going awry, where they have to start making adjustments throughout the game. You have to be able to make those adjustments
Right.
when things are not going well, and because really there's nobody out there that can help you. You are on an island. It's similar to tennis, and the fact that you can communicate to your little tennis box up there,
Yes.
but you're not allowed to really do that on the golf course. It's really just you and a caddy. And for junior golfers or college golfers that and maybe their coach isn't with them, you have to make your own adjustments, and that's one of the most important things a player can learn how to do in golf is to figure out what those adjustments are. And I played my best when I saw a ball flight that was not right. It's like, okay, this is what I do next. And just like any good pitcher, like you've talked to me in the past about when you start to, overcurve a curveball, you're missing high on a fastball, you'd have to be able to run through those adjustments because mentally, the thing that I struggle with the most was trying to figure out what the adjustments were.
Mm.
And then if you're trying to get over the golf ball and figure out what those adjustments are, it's too late because now what I figured out in whether it's announcing or golf, it's too much information for the brain to try to figure out. And really the only way for you to be successful in golf or in anything is it has to be simple. It really only needs to have about one, maybe two thoughts, or it's too much.
So I'm gonna ask a tough question, and I'm not trying to put us on the spot here to piss off all of our teaching friends, but do you think some of that comes from teaching where we fix and say go play, and then what happens is the player doesn't really know where the corrections are? All right, do you think we've gotten too fixy in golf swing teaching?
I don't think so. I think it all depends on the player and really where they're at in the game. So let's say, like, for instance, a guy like me, and I was a player that was really had some foul balls, and all I wanted to do was get to an
And let
instructor.
me explain why for our listeners, right? I remember a physiologist, one of our biomechanists, grabbed me a couple of years ago and said, Smylie Kaufman has the fastest hip speed we've ever measured on the PGA Tour.
Yeah, so that's a great way to start this, because when I would go to a new teacher or uh, go to get new information to try to figure out how to get the ball to go straighter, I was trying to skip steps. And what I mean by that is I didn't want to go slow. I wanted to see what it looked like. So I got some comfort in knowing that, okay, this is the stuff. Now I can go back and maybe start going, kind of ramping my speed back up, whether it's doing 50% shots for 3 days and just the stuff that you don't want to do because you're on the PGA Tour. You don't feel like you have to hit
Right.
7 irons 100 yards because it's like that's not going to help me. But really, it all depends on where the player's at. I needed more of seriously going back down to the basics, to where learning how to hit a 7 iron 100 yards was probably what I needed to be doing. But when we talk about like high level players who are just a tick off, they go to a new coach, and let's say someone would assume that they're being overcoached or giving too much information. Well, sometimes guys grasp concepts really well, and it works for some players and it doesn't for others. But I'll use Victor Hovland as an example. He grasped concepts very well, and I think that's why he's so successful. I think if Joe Mayo went to name X player on the PGA Tour and said, "Hey, I want you on your pitching, like you're not pitching well, but I want you to move forward about 2 inches on the way back, and then I want you to not worry about chunking it." And let's just say this player has had the yips or something like that.
That's not a movement a player wants to make. Yeah,
it's not. You can name the player that's struggling with chipping. If he told him to let's go forward and then we're going to try to release it and turn. Oh, actually, we're going to get taller when we get 2 inches forward, and then we're going to move the low point forward, and then we're going to have good contact, and explain the like just all of the leading edge and the spin loft and all the things that someone like Victor Hovland would understand, and he would grasp that concept and he would be comfortable with it because he understands the physics behind it. Now, if you go to another player who's like, "Oh, okay, that kind of makes sense, but like I just feel like I'm gonna like hit the top of the ball when I do that." So it depends on the player, and I think that's the most important thing in coaching is understanding what your player can take on.
Yeah. Do you look back and when you kind of had your breakthrough in college, it took you a little while, right? And then you get out on the web tour, the Corn Ferry Tour, you Monday qualify in, right? Or you had a sponsor's invite.
Yeah.
Chittamauga.
It was the sponsors at Louisiana. It was kind of my last shot.
Yeah, your Glory's last shot. You top 5'd, right?
Yeah. Finished fourth.
And then you later in the year won up at Victoria National.
Actually, I went fourth first, and I basically had my card. It was just like it was my last shot. Got into the next week, finished fourth, then got me into the next week, and then I won.
Looking at that, was it just the hell with everything? Or was it determination that pops up in you? I mean, I know how competitive you are, but what is it?
It's just what I was supposed to do at the time. I just had a belief that I was the best player there, and I just needed more at bats. Just a player that really needed to get to the plate more. The more I felt like I played against everybody, the more I felt like I was going to beat them, and that was my belief. I felt like I'm an over preparer, and when things were going well for me, I felt like I was more prepared than everybody else. I felt like my game plan was better. I knew how I was going to get around a golf course. I knew how to make adjustments, and I felt like I was tougher. So when I was playing well, it was a great formula for me. But when things started going south for me with injuries and trying to over prepare to fix the situation, for me, it wasn't the right formula. And I still look at it today and I can't figure it out. But it's so weird, this game, because it's wild that you can be on one side of the coin and then not understand it being on the other. There was never a middle ground for me. It was either so good or bad.
There wasn't for me either when I lost my throwing mechanics after my shoulder injury. And then, I mean, I still dream. I'm 51. I still have dreams that I'm out there throwing and I'm watching my arm action.
Yeah.
And like, I still will sit there and wonder, like, if I go out and throw, like sometimes a kid will come in town, or, I do a baseball lesson here or there. I hadn't done one in a couple of years, but I'll always love doing it. and I'll still sit there and follow and watch my mechanics of the way I'm throwing. And I'm still trying to recapture where I had that match. I mean, that's how screwed up our brains get, right? And I'm sure you're the same way. You're trying to find that feel that you had that was so good that people are, I mean, maybe that's part of golf. Maybe I don't know, but it's like I'm searching for that so hard to find it.
Yeah, no, totally. And I'll throw this in there too, and you can relate to this, especially in this day and age with social media. I think when things were like a struggle for me and I'm trying to find these feels and I'm working my tail off, it was kind of at the rise of social media as well in the golf industry. And it's where all the meme accounts started showing up. And so I was struggling with embarrassment on the golf course, just with where I was hitting the ball, with playing with guys that, I truly felt like I was better than, but I couldn't keep it on the map. So I feel embarrassment playing with other professionals. And then there was just the embarrassment of just social media, of how brutal that was during that same time. So for somebody that was as competitive as I was, I just want to try to prove people wrong. It's like, no, I am good. Like, I am better than this. And that to me was something that I wasn't prepared for mentally, or just maybe I wasn't mature enough to get
Who
help.
could be
And
prepared for that though?
yeah,
Because I mean, that's public scorn. I mean, I hate to say it, but the way the social media works is social media hits the parts of the brain that are it's like being shunned by a friend, like walking up to a friend and the friend turns and walks away. That's crushing. You're getting that every 10 minutes on social media. Like, you just want to go on and check the news and see about a football score. Next thing you know, you're being tagged in some a-hole with a auto program is doing this, right?
yeah.
I mean, as Clay
yeah.
Travis says, those aren't the dudes that are going to come up and say anything to you in person.
No, but it doesn't matter because it's just a very toxic culture and people play into it and think it's normal. But I'll kind of just finish with that, and knowing that I guess I didn't realize I was having anxiety at the time. I didn't really know what anxiety was. Um, I was trying to still run my process of my mental game that I used to run, which worked really effectively for me. I would, there would be thoughts that come through my brain and I would process them, and then I would reset and set a new goal for, like, okay, what are we doing here? And that worked really well for me mentally. And then it got to a point where these thoughts weren't even thoughts. It was just like fuzz. It was like static. And it was basically like where you feel like you're moving very quickly. Your brain's just moving fast. Your muscles feel tight, and you feel like you need to drink water. That's the feeling I was constantly getting. And it really, what it was just performance anxiety. And then I was having anxiety off the golf course that I didn't really like. Anxiety was a word for me that felt like taboo, like it was something that I couldn't address. And I didn't know that other people were going through it. It was kind of before people, like the mental health, like, where people could actually talk about it. And I didn't have anybody come up to me and say, hey man, like, how are you doing? Like, you would be good about doing it, but other people didn't. And I was still trying to be the tough professional golfer that could get through all this, but really I wasn't prepared to be able to get through all that. And really needed to get away from the game. And once I finally did, I was like, holy crap, I don't know how I got through that unscathed and didn't lose my mind.
Do you think that's helped you, though, to be the guy behind the mic you are? Because there are two guys. I'm not trying to piss off other guys that have done it, but there are two of you that I think have been brilliant into transition, you and Colt. Okay. And Colt is got that little sarcastic, makes fun of a lot of guys, but knows how to rib on them. You, when you present and you are out there behind the mic, you're seeing it. You have a vulnerability and an authenticity to you. So I think that's the reason both of you guys have been so successful. Do you think that struggle has allowed you to really paint the picture for viewers, or do you just put yourself in the player's mode? What is it?
I don't know. I just feel like I'm myself out there. And that was like one of the first things I noticed when I got to the PGA Championship.
Yeah.
It was my first one to work. And I got out there and I'm still dealing with this monkey on my back, which is I didn't realize at the time which was anxiety of dealing with people and relationships. I just always felt like people were talking about me. And once I got there, it was like this curtain was totally open, and I just felt comfortable again. And I couldn't explain it. I just knew that I was in the right place and that I could finally be myself again. So I'll say that my personality finally started to wake up, and I
Mm.
started to get some confidence just within myself. And it's like, wait, you do know a lot about this game, and maybe golf media is something and an avenue for you to continue to grow in this game. And for me, that's how I've been able to still remain competitive, because it allows me to prepare like I used to, which is I'm an over preparer. And felt like I knew the greens better than the players, like my
Mm.
first couple of weeks that I played. And I'm spending all this time on the greens, and I just feel like I know the golf course better than they do. And so I loved that. Now there's still, with TV, as soon as you start talking, I mean, it's live. So I mean, there is a lot of pressure and a lot of things to learn in this. And the bigger the stage I've gotten to in this, the more I've had to go back to how I used to run my processes in golf, which is, what is the most important thing right now? What are we trying to accomplish? And that to me is how I've been able to run a mental program in TV, which is when you throw it down to me and I have 4 or 5 things I could say about a player in 10 seconds, I've had to try to find a way to give you, like, what is the most important thing? It's same with golf. It's like, what shot are we hitting? How far is it? What are we doing? And go execute. And TV, I've been trying to do the exact same thing, which is, okay, what do you want to know as a sitting on the couch right now that I can give you? And that to me has been something that I've had to learn along the way, that now I'll take a pen and paper out and write it down just so I can mentally like see it. Because when
Mm.
I can verbally and write it down, for me it like opens up my brain to where I'm like, okay, this is how we're going to deliver the information. And then you do it with confidence versus trying to find something over here in left field, right field, center field, and try to make it into a sentence. So there's it's been a learning process, but I've been able to kind of use my old golf knowledge and mental game to kind of help me in TV too.
Well, like I said, I'm not trying to blow smoke up your ass, but I do think you're exquisite at what you do. I knew when I saw you at Southern Hills in Tulsa that year, and you were out there and we were doing a practice round, and I saw you and I was like, dude, you're going to kill it if you just beat you. I mean, because you're so well respected by the players. And I think that's helped you and Colt, right? You guys can walk in the locker room and it's not like, this guy's going to sell us out. But you see it as a guy. And what I love listening to you is it's like, this is like, if he can hold the green here, this will be a great shot. Like, whereas, a lot of times I'll hear announcers say, well, I mean, if he could get this to 10 feet, this is going to be great. And the guy stiffs it to a foot. I'm like, okay, was it really that hard of a shot? Or are we just doing that for dramatic effect? And I feel like when you say it, I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, this is legit. Let's go back to a really cool thing that happened over the summer, or late summer in August. You had the chance to call Nick Dunlap's USAM victory. And Birmingham is becoming a mecca of golf. Am I right?
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, the instructors that are out of here, you have the players that are coming out of here. You've got, the quality of, I mean, you've got 2 juniors that are about to, or not junior. Well, we got some juniors coming up too, but 2 AMs that are at the top of the list, Gordon Sargent and Nick Dunlap. That had to be cool though, because I knew deep down you were like, man, I've been in money games with this kid for so long. And with his caddy, Jeff Curl.
Yeah. It was fun to watch. It really was, I could tell it's been all summer. He's just been on a mission, and it felt like the mission was to prove that he was the best amateur player in the world, but also trying to make his way onto that Walker Cup team, which he eventually did. And really just those 2 guys that you mentioned, like Gordon Sargent and Nick Dunlap, having to play each other in the first round. It was a bummer that wasn't even in our TV window, because potentially the match of the year as far as AM golf goes. And yeah, Nick's been, a player that when somebody asked me about him and what I see in his game, to me, he's so mature beyond his years. He obviously has a ton of talent, but why he's so good now is that he's, to me, like a 35-year-old and a 19-year-old body. He just has the brain that is very mature. He understands golf at a higher IQ than everybody else that he plays against. And that's why he's been so successful. Throw in good talent and then throw in a really good work ethic. It's just going to be hard to beat. Like, he's just better than the kids that he's playing because he's more prepared and he's smarter than them.
So I just saw a post from Curl that they're on the range in Bermuda. So he's in the
saw that.
Yeah. What do you think? First PGA Tour event? Minus Opens. He's played in 2 U.S. Opens. But what do you think?
He's going to play good. He's going to make the cut. I imagine he'll finish somewhere around top 15, top 20. I just think that golf course.
Okay. So this is why I need to ask you why.
It's more of a golf course fit.
Okay. How? Tell me. Like, clue me in on that, because I suck at predicting this stuff.
He's got nothing to worry about off the tee, and he's a really good iron player, which being able to control the flight of your golf ball in Bermuda is probably the most important thing you can do off the tee. And there's no tee shots that are going to give him too many issues. And if you give a player like that just more opportunities to hit iron shots and greens that you can make a lot of putts on, as far as just the speed doesn't get away from you. Shoot, I just don't see how he doesn't shoot 300 or more every day.
So when you see that's just intuitive to you.
Well, I think it's just knowing the golf course and knowing his game as well. Because, if it was like a memorial, that's a different type of test. One that requires a little bit of course knowledge, a little bit of maybe even a higher IQ than he's quite ready for yet, but he'll get there just with more experience. And I think this golf course is very much similar to a lot of the college golf courses that they'll play that just aren't crazy challenging. One that I think Nick will be licking his chops on, thinking this is nothing. Yeah.
So I just saw some of the feedback coming from the Cabo event, and I knew, talking to my guys in the week, they were like, okay, we understand what happened, why we're here. Yes, Tiger, I'm sure, but this is a resort course that we're playing a PGA Tour event at. So this is going to be a pitch and putt. Obviously, you guys as tour players want super challenging, right?
Definitely.
Yeah, the only way to separate. So a course like Memorial, when you said it needs some local IQ, I mean, I walked it for the first time this year. I'd never been up there because it always fell over Memorial Day weekend, and or whatever. And I was like, it wasn't what I thought it was on TV, but I could see why it was so damn challenging. I expected it to be this big open piece of property, and it's really weaves within the neighborhood.
Yeah, it definitely is. I think it's kind of what the PGA Tour is now for the most part. You have like 3 different levels for the most part. You have the Island Tour, which is what's going on this week in Bermuda, and just like the lower level tour events. That the golf courses aren't crazy challenging. Like last week, saw Adam Long hit every single fairway. Like that shouldn't be PGA Tour golf when a player can hit every fairway.
747s on.
Yeah, so that to me is like, that's not what the top guys are having to play. Like Memorial is such a unique challenge, and I can go up and down the list of the golf courses that the top tour players, like Bay Hill, like that's so freaking hard when they play Bay Hill, and there's other ones too, but it's kind of how it goes. Like the higher the level you get to, the tougher the golf courses. And there was like a couple unique golf courses that like didn't necessarily fit that mold. Like PGA National was always one that was an open event that also could have been played at the highest level with the top players, but nobody wants to lose their mind at PGA National.
And I was going to ask you about PGA National, because a little of the feedback is guys stop going there because a lot of crosswinds, right?
Yes.
So instead of into the wind, downwind, everything is left and everything is right with water all around you. It is a challenging test. And when people go, I'm going to take this week off, when the top players have that choice and they take it off, it tells you either they don't enjoy the golf course, or I don't want to go into a mind bender this week as I'm getting ready to get into major season.
It's tough. And you and I have talked about this, and especially with the top players. And it's something I'll continue to want to dive into a little bit more, which is there's only 4 events that these top players are really, really concerned about, which is the 4 major championships. And when it goes with preparation and getting your mind and body ready to physically and mentally believe that you can play and win at a major championship, is a tough order for guys to figure out. for a guy like Phil Mickelson, it always was, we're going to play the week before. We're going to take it easier, let's say at the Masters or whatever week it is. And we're going to take that, like the beginning part of that week light. And then we know we're in a good spot. Now, I think there's plenty of other players that are top players that haven't figured out that formula yet. They almost overthink, how do I get ready for a major championship, instead of like, it's just another week. And I think I've talked to you about this, and I'm asking you a question, Albert. Yeah. Is it because every player is different, or is it, you know what I'm saying here? It's like, how do you, if an ex player comes to you and says like, hey, I don't know how to get ready for a major championship, would you dive into them, or would you try to figure out what history has told you?
It would be a combination of two things. One is, the big mistake is everyone over prepares and makes it a bigger platform than it needs to be. So it's like the negative thoughts, the fears, that all those things start building up, right? Because it's Augusta and everybody wants to win a green jacket. You were in contention, right? You know that feeling, right? But the score is going to be a little similar to the Colonial. It's not like it's a +8 winning score. No. Okay. You still have to hit golf shots. What gets people, in my mind, is that we try to be, it's like, I'm going to try to be better for the NBA Finals than I was during the season. I'm going to try to swing harder and do more in the World Series. One of the messages I had for my guys at the Alabama LSU game was, we don't need to do more today. We are good enough as we are. So we don't have to make the better pass. We don't have to hit the better block. I think what happens in golf going into majors is that, one, and this is kind of being funny, but I think because there's no Pro-Am, the schedules are set by the players, so they get to do what they want to do, but nobody wants to sit in a hotel room with that anxiety and adrenaline building up. So you go to the golf course where you're comfortable, and then you over-prepare, and you lose the bit of why you're there. You're there to win a golf tournament, not to play great. And most players who play great in majors, who win in majors, play good to get started. John makes a quad on the first hole. Okay. Yeah. They play good, and then they play into the round and into the tournament to be there for the back nine on Sunday. The most mistake is players are trying to be their best on the front nine on Thursday to see what kind of week they're going to have. That's where people get off. And in my opinion, so one of the things that I would do is I would follow some of the approaches of doing a little bit less on major weeks. I would recommend almost all my guys play the week before. But I get it. They don't like to. They have reasons they don't want to, and I understand that. But the reason is we got to burn the energy off somewhere. So, but I would sit down and kind of say, what do you want to feel? What are the drills we want to do? I want my guys to be really, because I see what happens. Most guys hit the ball really well on Tuesday morning. Tuesday night, they start to struggle. Wednesday, they search, and then Thursday, they're ready to go, or they're trying to take. But that's a cycle I see at every major with I stand on the range and watch players. Yeah. They do the same thing. I mean, I can see the pattern. I'm not talking about my guys. I'm talking about all guys. They do the same thing.
So what if it's a young guy that finally figures out, wait, I don't have to be perfect, but they get into contention and they weren't wired correctly, that they didn't expect to be in that position because they just treated it like another week. And now all those thoughts start coming flooding in your head. It's like, holy crap, I'm about to win my first major championship. I'm in position. Is it easy?
You're the one that was in position for a major.
Yeah, well, I'm still learning, because I'm still trying to figure out the psychology behind all of this. It's like, how do you care less enough but care enough about it when the moment comes around for the switch to be flipped?
So the thing is, we know that the deeper we get into a major, the more negative thoughts you're going to have, the more tension you're going to have, the more adrenaline you're going to have. I bet the Sunday that you warmed up at Augusta, you warmed up really fast.
Allegedly, it was a little quick.
Yeah. And if I had to guess, you probably had time to kill. So
actually, I didn't. I was running late somehow for a 3 o'clock tee time. It was the opposite. I felt like I didn't have enough time somehow.
Okay. So the interesting thing about it is players will warm up really fast, or they'll lose time like you did. But most of the time, people warm up really fast because they're hitting it well, because their adrenaline is high, right? People always say, I can't, I don't play good when I'm anxious. I'm like, but when you have adrenaline, you play great. It's the same chemical system in the body. So the thing is, you warm up really well. But what happens is you do get frantic, you lose purpose, right? So the mind starts expanding to all those thoughts, and you can't control those thoughts. So the thing to do is having an anchor where you kind of like, okay, look, whatever happens today, before I do anything, I'm going to come back to this. It might be me and my caddy are going to sit. When I pull my glove on, I'm going to remind myself that it's a golf shot. And I'll remind myself this is an 8-iron I've hit my entire life. And while the stage is big, my circle is the same. Okay. And you have to work that. Now, why are the best players always the ones that win majors? It's because they're in major contention a lot. That level has reduced. Now, does Brooks, Brooks has a really interesting thing. And I think this is what makes Brooks so smart and why I've always said he's a baseball player playing golf, which is when he gets to a major, when he does his press conferences, he always kind of says it like, I look at the field and I pretty much, he pretty much parses it out and knows he's only playing against 20 guys. Okay.
It's a mental trick he's playing.
Hell yeah, it is. It is. But he also, have you ever heard him talk about how he's hitting it at a major?
No.
Never. It's not about that. See, it's not about that. He has figured this out. He's the best. Let's be honest. Winning value. He's the greatest closer in major history.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, Tiger's won more, but I'm talking about compared. He's won what, 5 majors and won 3 other events. I mean, that just shows that he's got a strategy that works there. Versus at other events, sometimes guys just like Eric Van Rooyen just goes off yesterday and wins an event. That rarely happens at a tour event.
No, you're right. And that's like, to me, the thing I'm still trying to figure out for major championships and guys is if you told a player, hey, let's have the same attitude as Brooks Koepka, and I want you to feel like you have the mental advantage against the entire field, feel like you're the best player here. Does that only work for Brooks Koepka, or does every single player that feels like they feels like they can win the golf tournament, should every person have that little bit in them, or is it just different for every guy?
I think I would love everybody to look at it and say, who am I really playing against here? No offense. I'm not, I'm not really playing against, somebody said years ago, Augusta's the easiest field major to make the cut, right?
Yes, I agree.
Okay. Because you've got 15 former players of winners who may be irrelevant. One will make a run. But for the most part, you have a limited field, top 50 in ties, blah, blah, blah. So, but when you really look at it, how many guys are you playing against in that field? There may be 30 guys. It might be 30 guys. Okay. And somebody will make a run, but when you see somebody make a run on Thursday, you have to kind of look at it and say, they're probably not built to last. Okay. Georgia football sees a team come out and play them tight in the first, or Rutgers plays Ohio State tight in the first. More than likely that sideline's like, they can't sustain this. Everything is going their way. We just have to sustain this storm, do our job. We know where we're going to be at the end. And so I want a player to understand that. But a lot of times players will say, well, I have to be hitting it better. If those same validation defaults fall back in place. And until somebody says, I'm willing to go out there and I'm willing to just take what I have and make it the Augusta Invitational versus the Masters and play it like that, which I say that out of respect to Augusta National. I'm not saying that out of disrespect. What I mean is I want them to reframe it. Brian Harmon said something to me years ago. Guys aren't getting off boats anymore coming over from Europe that are like, oh my God, that's Seve Ballesteros. We play against these dudes every week. We're all going next week to Hilton Head and playing the next event, right? We're playing at a place that has the most culture, esteem, U.S. Open. It's theoretically the hardest, right? We add the drama to it, but ultimately at the end of the day, like I'm always amazed. Okay, when we walked Southern Hills, what did you think that winning score was going to be in the practice round? +5?
Oh, man.
Tuesday, Wednesday was heinous. I mean, it was brutal.
And then the weather forecast too made me think, it's going to be over par, right?
Yeah. All of a sudden, he goes out and shoots 5 under. It's like, and what happens once somebody posts 5, the other guys in the field go, "Oh, it's possible."
It's possible,
and it changes. So, I learned something a couple of years ago during the November Augusta. I remember walking because only so many coaches could be out there, and it was a really cool experience. And I was watching, and we were paired with Cam Smith. and the greens are soft. And Cam Smith came out, and I'd always heard, don't play yourself out of contention at Augusta. Make sure you're on the right sides of greens, all this other stuff. Dude, he just took that aim. And I think he came in second or third that week.
Yeah, he's playing amazing.
Yes. And he just took that aim. And I started thinking, I was like, man, are we making majors bigger than they are?
Yeah, that's a fair question. And I think what makes a very good tour player and a major winner is knowing what a good score is that day. And that's that high level IQ that I've talked to certain players about, that they know what probably the best score that day is going to be before they even tee off. And that's knowing how the golf course is going to play, where the pins are set that day. And then as the golf tournament goes on, as Sunday comes up and they're 3 or 4 back of the lead, they know what the number is going to be that they have to get to by looking at who's in the groups behind them or who they're playing against if they're in that final group. And that's what Tiger Woods was so good at. Yeah. He was so good at knowing what the number was going to be, and that he showed up and said, you know what, if I hit iron off every single tee and hit it to the middle of the green and shoot 70, it's going to win by 3 shots. I don't have to go out there and pound driver. I don't have to go out there and aim at every pin, because I know who I'm playing against and I know what they're going to shoot. And it's not a crystal ball. It's just experience combined with just this high level IQ of knowing how the golf course is playing. And guys like Jordan Spieth, he's one that comes to mind as one of the most intelligent golfers I've ever been around. I just used to follow him around like a puppy dog around the greens, trying to just figure out he would go exactly where he would end up playing it on Sunday to this pin. It's like, you know what, greens are probably going to firm up to this pin, most likely going to have this club. And if it just ends up a little right, it'll probably end up in this first cut about 15 feet away, and I'm going to start practicing this chip. And it's just on a Tuesday, he knows that's what's going to happen. And that was the thing. I felt like I was a very smart golfer, but there was another level that they had that I couldn't even imagine, because it's just this huge mental advantage that they would have against the field, because they're, I don't know if it's experience or just this level of smarts, but it was insane.
We called it at LSU baseball, and Bash knows this playing at Ole Miss. We called this how to win awareness. Skip had it. Coach Bertman had it. There's no doubt Coach Saban has it. The ability to see things that are patterns that are just at a different level. That's why if you watch an LSU football game or an Alabama football game, the opponent, Jaden Daniels, may get a breakaway a couple times, and then all of a sudden later in the game, nothing looked like it changed. Something very dramatic did change. He talked about it on his radio show, or he just rushed an extra guy.
Yeah.
And what he did is he kept him in the pocket. It was a very clear. And I mean, he's just brilliant at seeing that kind of stuff. So I want to get to a couple questions that we have, and then I'm going to let you go and get back to being a stud. When it comes to leaderboards, were you a leaderboard watcher?
100%. Couldn't stop looking at him. And
do you really believe when people say they don't look at a leaderboard?
I think it's, if it was a player that really struggled with those thoughts of winning a tournament and not being able to control those thoughts, I can understand why somebody wouldn't want to look at a leaderboard. Or if somebody knew already that had a big lead and that had their own goals out there that day and said, you know what, if I go out and shoot 2 under out here today, that's going to be enough for me. But you always, like, it's my old basketball coach used to say this, you have to know what the time and score is. And if you don't, you're not doing yourself the service, and maybe the caddy can help with that as well. But to me, you definitely always have to be aware of the leaderboard for sure.
Do you like guys getting more aggressive out there and stuff like that?
I definitely like guys getting more aggressive. It just depends,
The PGA Tour has really become a golf course of execution and offense. There's really not a lot of prevention out there.
Yeah. And that, when I just go back and look at just what driving distance is on the PGA Tour now versus when I was on tour in 2016, 17, 18, I was 25th, I think, my rookie year in distance at like 298 yards. And now if you're in at 298 yards, I mean, I know technology has changed, the golf balls have changed, But the quality of player and the quality of information that is being taught to these players, it just seems like players used to have more weaknesses, and now players just seem to not have weaknesses. And if they do, it's masked by either one of their superpowers, and that to me is what I keep noticing about this next crop. It's like the only thing they're lacking is just belief and experience, because they're good enough. They just don't quite believe it yet.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
Oh my God. I mean,
I love it when somebody says, I've played well in my club. I'm like, dude,
shut up. Shut up.
play local amateur tour events, go play, try USGAs, all this. But you're watching the baddest dudes in the world go at it and enjoy what they do. I mean, listen, when you stand on the range and watch Rory McIlroy hit drivers or the thud that comes off his irons, it's like, dog. You watch our dude Burnsy roll putts. It's like,
oh my gosh.
Like, come on, man. I mean,
people ask me how much I miss golf. People ask me how much I miss golf, and I tell them I miss it every now and then. Like when I was walking at the Sanderson Farms, like, you know what, I could play out here. This is I could play out here. But I watch Rory a lot, and I watch John Rahm a lot, and I watch Victor Hovland and Jordan Spieth and Justin Thomas. I watch them play a lot of golf, and it's unreal. You just wouldn't believe what they're able to do. And Scotty Scheffler's what he's able to do with a golf ball. It's the most absurd thing I've ever watched.
We watched at number 3 was the wall hole in Liverpool, right? Or 4? Was there number 1 hole?
Yeah, 3. It was number 3.
We were out on the practice round, and Sam was playing with him, I think. No, Sam wasn't playing with him. Billy was. And we were standing next to Teddy, and he was in the left rough and just pumping into the wind, man. I mean, just pumping. That's a Wednesday. I get it. He hit a back foot fade 5-iron. That was probably the baddest shot I've ever seen in my life. And Teddy just kind of looked and laughed. I'm like, I sat there and I was like, how did you just do that? Out of the rough with a 5-iron, back foot fade. And it was like to 10 feet. I'm like, that's just stupid. Like,
it's confidence. There's so much confidence. I mean, we're talking about a shot for the people that are like, wait, what? He hit a back foot 5-iron. So what, dude? There was OB next to the screen that was probably about 4 yards away from the edge of the green.
Yeah.
So to say that shot that he hit, and I watched Rory do it too. He would, during the tournament, he took on these right flags with OB right, and I'm just thinking to myself, in what world would I ever have the confidence to hit that shot if I was playing? And the answer is never. I'm aiming at the left edge of the green, and if I push it, it's catching the edge of the green. Most likely I'm missing it left, and that's where I see the separation of these guys, is that there's no fear involved.
John hitting that shot on, was it 14 or 17? Maybe 17 out the right trees, and he hit it to 8 feet and made the birdie putt. At Augusta.
Where? Oh, at Augusta. I don't know. I was on the call. So I was on the call that week.
Gotcha. He had a shot out of the trees. And yes, it was one of those that he had a shot, had this, but it was just so well executed. It was like, oh my God. People just enjoy what you're watching. Okay.
Exactly.
And do it. A couple more questions for you, then I'll let you get out of here and I got to get back to work. Any mental hurdles? I mean, we talked about fear of not letting people down when you switched to broadcasting. The main one is just for you was you have no problem. You have the gift of gab and telling a story and painting a picture. Was there anything that just kind of gave you pause about accepting that role?
Just in TV? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
I thought there would be like a fear, or just like a fail, like, just when you get into TV that players would look at you as a failure. Or just kind of giving up. And so there was a moment where I showed up there where I was like, is this going to be kind of embarrassing? And it was the opposite. Like I was so like comfortable in my own skin that at this point that it's like, dude, if there was nothing worse than what I was going through on the golf course and just not feeling like I can open up and be myself and feel that level of confidence that I know I have somewhere in there, but not being able to show that and my personality. It was like, this is way more fun. I'm having a blast. I just like being out here.
Well, I mean, I can tell you because, people talk about you when you leave or whatever and everything. And they're like, God, it's so good to see Smylie. He's so good at this. And I'd tell you if somebody was an ass to you. But the fact is, it's like seeing you out there and seeing you execute like that is. I told you, I said sometimes we end up in the place where we're meant to be, where we're meant to be a superstar or Hall of Famer, and I think that's where you are in the media side. Golf put you in that situation, and while it was painful, man, I think you got the gift for it. I'm excited to see. What's one thing as a viewer that is watching on TV that they can take away and say when they're watching a golf tournament? What's a hook for them to watch? Like, here's really the separator. Is it the wind? Is it the rough around the greens? Is it lies? What is it?
I think it's as far as winning golf tournaments, or just what they don't necessarily see.
Yeah, and what they don't see that really makes things challenging.
Well, first off, these guys are really good, and what they're able to do, like you talked about with Scotty Scheffler in a back-footed 5-iron, but what the control that they have with their golf balls and just robotic at times of how they're able to literally hit it at their target more often than not, and the rough they play out of, and how firm the greens are, and where, and I guess this is probably the tidbit that you're looking for here, is where most hole locations are not, like, most of the time it's like an up and over, so it's sitting on top of a crown. So if you see, like, watching on the TV and you see, I said, why is everybody missing this spot? It's like most of the time there's something very complicated with a hole location. And when you start seeing everybody make the same putt or birdie the same hole, it's because the hole location most likely is in a spot where there's no competing forces as far as like where the slopes are coming from. So when you have that 1 degree slope coming off the right, or the 2 degrees coming off the right, where continuous slope is where guys make a lot of putts. Where guys miss more often than not is when there's competing slopes, or that whole location sitting on top of a crown or on top of a knob, and that's where you see guys missing putts more often than not, because if you get it started too far to the right, it hangs there. If you get it too far left, it overbreaks, something like that. But
and anything from a tee, is it like I think about Oak Hill number 6?
Yeah, 6. I wasn't there that week, but I remember watching on TV. And
yeah, is there anything off the tee that kind of messes with that?
One thing that has surprised me was I grew up watching Tiger Woods play golf like the rest of us, and so often he would hit that stinger shot, like that 3-iron, 2-iron, just to get the shot in play.
Mm-hmm.
I very rarely see guys when they hit 2-irons and 3-irons that they try to hit a stinger. Most of the time they hit it a normal 3-iron trajectory. Like, they're not trying to hit down on it and get it on the ground. Only a few players try to do that. And I'm wondering if it's because to hit that shot, you have to hit so down and left on it that you have to aim so far left that it produces potentially more of a miss out to the right for guys. And I was under the impression that when I had a 2 or 3-iron out on a par 4, and I just always wanted to get the ball on the ground like Tiger Woods did.
Mm-hmm.
And really, when I watched Brooks Koepka do it, Scotty Scheffler, they're hitting these high 3-irons to get it in play. And I'm like, I didn't realize that was one of the things that kind of kicked in for me for myself when I play now. It's like, you don't have to get the ball down the ground quick when you're hitting a 2-iron, especially I'm a high ball speed guy. So I don't like hitting the ball way up in the air to hit a fairway where I feel like I can just get it down, chase it on the ground, and
I'm with
get
you
it
on
out there. So that was one that definitely took me away. But for the most part, guys are very aggressive with drivers out there, and Rory very rarely will pull a 3-wood out because he just knows with driver, I'm just better with this club.
Yeah, I'm better than everybody in the world with this club. Well, buddy, let's do it again sometime. Let's play. Once my hip is better, we can go play. I saw your name on the match play board.
Etchell?
Yeah. What happened?
I'll tell you, I was telling somebody the other day, it was actually our president, King, and we played them in the 3rd round, and we lost. But I told him, it was like in my matches, I had 7 birdies or 8 birdies and an eagle in both of our 2 matches, and I had this sick up and down. I hold out this bunker shot on 6 at Shoal and for eagle, and he was like, dude, I've been telling everybody how well you play that day and this and that. I'm like, yeah, it was funny that really my best rounds this year have been in that match play format where it was competition. Mm-hmm. And it was like, and I told him, I was like, it was really fun and cool for me to feel like I was in competition and match play mode and perform, because like that's what I miss the most about playing on the PGA Tour, is getting my competitive juices, knowing I'm going to pull off a shot or pull off a putt. And I told him, I was like, I don't think there's any surprise to me that I made that many birdies and an eagle every single round, because I was able to kind of get out of my own way and just play golf. Because I told him too, is like my work, all my other rounds have been kind of bad because I just don't care. And
well, the problem with other rounds is they become validators, and match play becomes about victory or not.
Yeah.
Whatever it takes, get it done any way it can get done. And in every other way, it's like, well, I need to hit this shot because I'm going to need this later. And we start validating versus whatever it takes.
Yeah. So I think I made 7 or 8 birdies that day in an eagle, and we lost on the 18th hole 2 down. So I don't know if we need to change the format out there, or I just need to stop playing those things.
What do you play to?
I think they played me as a +6 out there, which makes it tough when I'm giving 6 shots back to a 3 handicap. So then now they're sitting at a 9. And, and when we play these matches in the summer, the greens are soft. So 9 shots to a 3 handicap, if they're, a decent ball striker, it's tough to beat 4 net 3 more often than not. So
it made it that kind of action, I'm in. Okay.
Yeah. I made it a challenge, but I sure do. It's one of my best events at Shoal Creek, is that season-long member, because you get to meet so many different people along the way, and that's just a good way to get to know the membership. So, yeah, look forward to seeing you out there
next year. Well, I appreciate it, brother. I got you a copy of the book for you, and I'll drop it off at some point. Hey, Smylie Kaufman, thank you so much for joining us here on Mental Game Live. To everybody out there, make sure you pick up a copy of Kick Anxiety's Ass. I'm telling you, it's changing lives. It's changing the way people see anxiety. It does work. It does help. You can take control of the uncontrollable factor in your life. And we're going to do that. We'll see you guys at our next loop on Mental Game Live.